Hi everyone, Baruch Lurie here on The Baruch Lurie Show. It's been a while since we had our latest installment for The Baruch Lurie Show. However, things in Israel with the Hamas surprise attack of October 7. I've been going off the speaking circuit regarding my new book, Keeping the Kids All Right, and really focusing for the time being on addressing the issues and doing my part regarding the war and Israel's position vis-a-vis the rest of the Middle East. So I think one of the things that we really need to focus on is the history. You might say, well, what does that matter, Baruch? The Palestinians have that land. That is their native homeland for all thousands of years, and there's no excuse for taking it over, even if it is for your own security. Okay, not so fast. There is no such thing as a Palestinian homeland. There were never Palestinians in governing control of a place called Palestine. There's no president or prime minister, or for that matter, king over a land called Palestine. So what was it? Well, the only thing that it was in history was ruled by Jews, the Israelites, back in the 1st century AD. Then in the year 70 AD or so, the Romans decided to kick out those pesky and troublesome Israelites because they wouldn't agree to support the Roman cause, the Roman Empire, agree to their gods. So the Romans kicked them out in a brutal fashion. They destroyed the temple wall and they killed and maimed and raped and sent them out of Israel. That was known as the diaspora. So many Jews left Israel and settled in countries throughout all the world. And people like myself living in California, we call ourselves the diaspora Jews. We've always been seeking a return to our native homeland, and only Jews have been in control of Israel as its own nation. There have been other occupying forces, of course the Roman Empire, like I mentioned, Babylonia, and then later on, of course, the Ottoman Empire and the British Empire. Now, they named it Palestine. Now, you may ask yourself, well, why did they call it Palestine if these people are not Palestinians? When the Romans kicked out the Jews, they also decided to rename Israel to the name of their worst enemies of the biblical times, the Philistines. What is the Roman word for Philistine? Palestine, Palestinia. Now we fast forward to early June of 1967, where as a result of a 6-day war, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, as we now think of them, were created, where they happened to have a lot of people that eventually called themselves Palestinians. My father fought in that war, and he helped defend Israel against many nations that were surrounding Israel, hoping to destroy it. The country of Jordan decided to involve itself in that war, and in the process lost the land that they had before in what is now the West Bank. That's the reason why they call it the West Bank, because it's the West Bank of Jordan. These people were Jordanians. They were of a different tribe, but nevertheless, they were citizens of Jordan. And eventually they created a Palestinian Liberation Organization, and suddenly this idea that there were Palestinians was born. The concept of a Palestine is a modern invention. It's true that there are people now living there. They are a reality on the ground. That's the issue. You want to say that Israel should somehow give us a two-state solution, create a Palestine for them at this point? Fine, you can make that argument. You can even ask for a new country called Palestine. But Hamas and Hezbollah, these are two terrorist organizations, one from Gaza, one from the North Hezbollah. They both desire to destroy Israel. It's not because of land that somehow the Israelis had taken from them. It is about seeking the destruction of any people that are in the region that are not Muslim. They do not say, we seek our own land to live side by side in peace with Israel. They want Israel gone. In 2005, in an effort to avoid the expense of safeguarding many Israelis who were living in Gaza in different little towns, they decided they were going to pull out of Gaza altogether and no longer have an Israeli soldier presence in Gaza. And Ariel Sharon, who was prime minister at the time, ordered it unilaterally. The theory was it's very expensive and this will engender goodwill throughout the international community. They'll see how Israel left unilaterally. It won't be called Palestine, but they will be able to govern themselves autonomously. That was the theory, at least. Very quickly after that, there were 4 wars brought from our good friends in Gaza. Missile launches, terrorist attacks of every kind. Despite the effort to minimize costs, it ended up costing Israel far more in responding to these rocket attacks and other terrorist attacks. And now we have the 5th war that started on October 7th of 2023, when Hamas did its most bold and invasive attack upon Israel ever. Now Israel has to respond and has to go into Gaza and to clean up and get rid of Hamas altogether. A very expensive proposition indeed. So many lives lost in the process. It was a big mistake to leave Gaza. Here we are today, and we have to now deal with international condemnation. And do you think that they remember that we pulled out of Gaza unilaterally? Of course not. You may say that the Palestinian people, the people who call themselves Palestinians, the Arabs who live in Gaza and the West Bank, deserve their own land because they are a fact. They exist, they're real people. You can make that argument, but do not buy into that. What's really going on here is a struggle for having a peaceful coexistence with Israel. The main mission, as they themselves say, is to send all the Israelis, the Jews, into the sea. One side wants the other side dead. The Israelis just want to live in peace. If the Palestinians gather together and actually create a truly democratic government, then they will want peace with Israel. In democracies, the first order of business is prosperity. And if you don't deliver prosperity to your people, you get voted out. But instead, you have these very malevolent forces, Hamas, PLO, Fatah, Hezbollah, and others. The one thing that they have in common is they want to drive all of the Israelis into the sea and destroy Israel altogether. Israel cannot negotiate with forces like that. I hope this has helped quite a bit in your understanding of the Israel-Palestinian conflict and what's really going on and what's really driving Hamas to do the horrific, evil stuff that they have done. I'm Barak Lurie. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you next week.